Clay community is in mourning tonight following the sudden passing of a beloved coach. Clay assistant football coach Derek Besgrove died unexpectedly last week. This afternoon, hundreds of Derek's friends, family, and members of the community filed into Clay Memorial Stadium for a celebration of his life. Those who knew him say Derek always looked after the players as individuals and not just as athletes.
Clay is embracing a season of change. Derek Pennington takes over as the Eagles' new head coach, bringing a new offensive system and new traditions. The Clay coaching staff will be giving out blue-collar shirts to players who come to work every day and lead others, traits that Derek Besgrove embodied as the Eagles honor their longtime assistant coach who passed away this past spring.
He came in to any room and he lit it up, his energy, man. So the grit that he brung, that he showed us, that he wanted us to work hard every day, that just symbolizes that, and it's really awesome.
Derek and I became friends as soon as I took the job here, and obviously he was a community leader and a blue-collar, hard-nosed guy. So we just wanted to do something that would showcase what he brought to the community and also be a positive influence on our team. So we're going to try to be a physically tough and demanding team.
Jim, tell me about Derek in high school and what kind of student athlete he was.
Well, he did a little bit of everything. I mean, he played football and basketball for 4 years. He played baseball early on. He was a catcher, and he was kind of worried about that affecting his speed, so he went to track his last couple years. He was always a good student. Didn't have to worry about anything like that. It was a fun journey for everybody.
And so he went to college at Walsh, and he was there, and he had a very successful career. I know I saw that he had several records at Walsh. And then when he was done with college, what made him decide to come back to Oregon and raise a family and start here?
Well, initially, after he graduated, he took the police test in Canton, and that was, his degree was in law enforcement, so he was going to, at that point, stick around the Canton area and be a police officer. Between that time and the time he actually came home, he found out that BP was going to be hiring, and my dad worked at the refinery, so it was just kind of a natural fit. And obviously, beginning police officers don't make that much money and do a lot better at BP, so he decided to come back and pursue that angle.
And, a lot has been discussed about, everything that he did for, athletics in Oregon from youth sports all the way up through high school. And did he ever share all of his vision with you of what he hoped we at Clay could be as a football team and as a high school?
It all started, I think, with me coaching, and he was always on the sidelines with me. And at one point, I was coaching basketball in Northwood, and I asked him to be my varsity assistant. And when his kids got old enough, obviously, he was really interested in coaching them and being involved. And you always, when you go into a new position, you always see things that are working well and things that maybe could be improved. And he was one of those guys that didn't shy away from voicing his suggestions if he saw something that needed to be tweaked a little bit.
Do you have a fond memory of when he was playing at Clay? Maybe a play or something that is that always sticks with you, that's the Derek play? Well,
I mean, he had a big game against Fostoria his senior year. He set the rushing record for yards in a game and touchdowns in a game and all that stuff. But my favorite was his junior year. I think we were playing Springfield. I can't remember who we were playing. But we had the ball inside our own 1 yard line. And, I'm thinking, geez, don't hand the ball off to him. I don't want him to get tackled in the end zone and get a safety. And the play was called, he got the ball right up the middle, had an opening. And the funny thing about it was, we had a 99-yard touchdown run, but the funny thing about it was the protector on the back of his shoulder pads was flapping, so he thought somebody was like right behind him the whole way. So it was like, you know, the turbo burst all the way to the end zone. He was, you know, he was 20 yards ahead of everybody else, but he didn't know that. So that's the one that kind of sticks in my mind.
That's great. If somebody didn't know Derek and they're seeing maybe this video for the first time, or they moved to Oregon after his passing, or they just didn't have any interaction with him, if you could describe Derek in a couple words or even a couple sentences, what would it be?
Well, obviously, whatever he did, he was really focused. You know, that was his main objective, his main thought at that particular time, and he did everything to accomplish, you know, what he thought needed to be accomplished. Besides that, he was very driven, and he handed that off to his kids. He wanted to get the most out of everything he did, and he wanted his kids to do the same thing. I think he really enjoyed working with student athletes, and I think that was picked up by all that worked with him. He could be hard-headed sometimes, but you know, sometimes in order to get things done, you have to be a little hard-headed. So I admired him for that too.
All right, thank you, Jim.
Yep.
Coach Pennington, can you tell me about your first interaction with Coach Besgrove?
Yeah, I was sitting in my office in Caledonia, Michigan, and just going through email like I do every morning, and had kind of a weird email from someone I didn't know. Oddly, his name was Derek, and so was mine, so I was trying to figure out who it was. It just said, "Call me ASAP," like all in bold, which was kind of how Derek was. And so when I got to lunch, I called him, and he just introduced himself and said, "Hey, I heard you had interviewed for another job around in Ohio, and I wanted to know if you'd be interested in talking with Clay High School about their football job. Really heard good things about you. I would just encourage you to send your resume to Mr. Kiss," which I did after I talked with him, and that's kind of how we got started. And it was just, he just reached out to me randomly. I didn't know who he was, but I was impressed with how much he seemed to care and love, you know, Oregon and Clay football and so forth.
And when you guys sat down and talked about a vision for the future of Clay, can you tell me a little bit more about what that shared vision looked like?
Yeah, as the interview process went on, like Derek and I had some conversations for a week or two, just talking about what I had done in Caledonia and Zeeland, and some of the things I wanted to bring here, which he thought would be good, and just upscaling kind of the training and some things that we were doing with kids in Caledonia that he was attracted to. He really was excited about, you know, some of the things I had done. But like Derek wasn't on the committee, he just had encouraged me to apply, and so we had conversations for a while during that time, and then after I accepted the position, then we really started with, you know, just the things we wanted to do in the program. And the program had just had a good season with Mason Heinzel's senior year, so like we wanted to capitalize on that and kind of try to take the program to another level.
And then what was so amazing about how Derek could prioritize all the kids in the program, maybe not just the starters or the dudes, but how he could, you know, reach every kid that he came into contact with?
Yeah, it was unique with Derek in the sense that, you know, he had a kid, obviously Bryce, who was a good athlete and that was coming up in the program, but he really took an interest and focus on a lot of kids that were involved in football here. He knew every kid, it seemed like, in the area through youth sports and different things he'd been engaged with. So, like, you just got a sense that he really cared about a lot of the kids here, a lot of them, you know, because he had coached middle school, freshman level, that type of stuff. Like, they knew Derek and wanted to be a part of football in part because of what he had instilled in them at younger ages.
And going back to that vision aspect, how do you help live out that vision that you guys had discussed when you first came to Clay?
Well, obviously, I was on spring break. I was finishing up my contract in Michigan. I was on spring break with my daughter in Puerto Rico when Derek passed, and I learned of his passing. And so since then, our staff talked a lot about just trying to continue to carry out, the vision he and I had shared, the first couple months that I had the job here, and just some of the things we were working on, and what Derek really saw for the program, which was the sky was the limit. We could do a lot of good things here. And so every day when I wake up and I come in here, there's a lot of days I think about Derek and just, kind of how he wanted things to be and how he kind of had instilled those things, in the players and the work ethic and the grit and those types of things. So, he still obviously influences the program, even though he passed away. I think about him a lot.
What do you think winning football means to this community? I know that you're coming into year 2, but you saw some of it firsthand with big wins against Whitmer, big wins against Anthony Wayne. Those kinds of things haven't been done in a while. What do you think that means to this community?
Well, I think, Oregon's the type of place, it's kind of old school in the sense that people come out Friday night for the games. There's one high school here. Everybody's kind of, behind it. It's a great atmosphere here at a really classic older stadium. So there's some really cool things about the community. I think, they've been hungry to win football games. There was a stretch way back when they won a bunch, and then there was a long stretch of not winning. And then, right at the end of John Gallia's tenure, they won some games that last season. They've had some good players here recently. And so last year was our first year. We were just I was trying to figure out Ohio football and, how we fit and figure out and learn the players. And we had an up and down season, but I was encouraged. One of the things Derek kind of wanted to get rid of the mindset was hey, there's teams you can beat and teams you can't, and kind of change that mindset to just, going in and playing every game and competing and doing our best and not trying to predetermine outcomes. And I think, with the Whitmer win and the Anthony Wayne win, I think our kids saw you can defeat schools that are bigger than you. You can defeat schools that have better traditions. We're just trying to move the needle and change the mindset a little bit.
In the program, we have one more year in the Buckeye in the NLL, then we move back down to the Cardinal. With that being said, where do you see the program in the next 3, 5, 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, I try to win the day. I try to be good every day and try to get the program better every day. I mean, we do have an end game, a long plan, and feel like, we're headed in the right direction. In terms of the league, I'm still figuring the league out. When I took the job, I didn't know the difference between the Buckeye and the Cardinal. And so, your schedule's going to change every year. You're going to have to adapt to that. But obviously, probably positions us better here in another year. In Ohio, because of the way the playoffs are done, you really need to win a significant amount of regular season games to get a good seed to have an opportunity to win some playoff games early and get some momentum. So, that's one of our goals, is to get to the point where in the regular season we can win games here enough to where we can get in the playoffs and position ourselves better.
Is there anything else that you would like to get out to the community about? Anything?
Well, I'd just like to say, we're using this, this year, some of the promotions we're doing to try to show what we're doing in the program, to try to educate folks. I think a lot of people have experience maybe in the community with football, but maybe it was in the 1990s or, you know, early 2000s, the game's changed a lot. I've always been, even though I'm an older coach now, I've always tried to live on the cutting edge in terms of the things we're doing to try to get players developed and the way we're approaching the game, using technology, the different things we're doing. So, you know, as we go through this, we're going to see some of the things that we're really trying to do, and I think that once the community understands that, I think it might be better for us, for them to have the same vision as we do.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.
I'm Bryce Besgrove. I'm going to be a junior here at Clay. I play football and baseball.
Hey, Bryce. So what does it mean to you that your dad made such an impact to so many people in the community?
And honestly, it means so much to me. You know, to see the impact he had on everyone and how many people like truly care about him and all the support me and my family got after he passed, it really meant everything to me.
Is there anything in particular that sticks with you that you learned from your father?
Something you'd always say is, if you don't believe in you, who's gonna believe in you? You know, it's just a confidence I carry myself with, and I try to pass on through me and my teammates. Like, if you're in a situation, if you're at the plate, if you don't believe you're gonna be the guy that steps up and get a hit, or if you're trying to make a tackle and you don't believe you're gonna take that guy down, nobody's gonna believe in you, and it's probably not gonna happen. And I just try to carry that mindset with me in everything I do.
And then what did the school and community mean to your dad?
It meant so much to him. You know, the countless hours he spent on and off the field, you know, texting his players after practice, like checking on their grades, checking on them mentally, how they're doing. You know, it was all day, every day. You know, it wasn't like just on the field, 2 hours of practice. It was everything. Like, he cared so much about everybody.
And what was because he coached you throughout your youth sports and everything else, and even in your freshman year here, what was your favorite thing about being coached by your dad?
You know, sometimes it sucked, but, you know, he was always super hard on me. But what I liked most is to see how much of an impact he had on, you know, just other kids' lives. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many kids that, like, didn't have, like, that true, like, father figure. And it was so cool to see, like, him having that same relationship with them and sharing that with them that he had with me. You know, it was really cool to watch.
I bet you that was special that you saw him include other kids like that 100%. Needed the help, right?
Yeah.
And then what has it been like this year since your father passed? We had a new coach come in with Coach Pennington, and I know he's been there for you, and others, and how have they helped you through this difficult time this past year?
They've helped me so much. You know, just not only from a on the field football standpoint, like keeping my mind off of it, but just always checking in on me, asking me how I've been. But honestly, like, I've been good. You know, I've been staying positive. And I truly believe, like, when my dad got Pennington here, I believe, like, it all happened for a reason. Like, I believe Pennington's the right person for this job. And, you know, he's helped me so much over the last year.
And then, lastly, what is your favorite thing about your dad that always runs through your head?
You know, my favorite thing about him is probably just everything he did, he put his all into, like 100%. You know, if it was working out, if it was coaching, if it was spending time with me and my sisters, whatever it is, he put 100% effort into, and, like, I can really respect that, and I love that about him.
And does that make you want to put 100% into everything as well?
Yeah, it makes me want to be the best version of myself.
All right, thanks, Bryce.
Thank you.
And I will try